The Last Teacher. Lou Gehrig teaches one final lesson that nobody is ready to receive, transforming his deathbed into a classroom where he demonstrates how to face the ultimate challenge with grace, dignity, and concern for others rather than self-pity or despair that would be understandable and forgivable given his circumstances. The lesson isn't delivered through formal instruction or prepared remarks, but through his actions, attitude, and final words during the last weeks of his life, when speaking becomes difficult, and every breath requires enormous effort that most people would reserve entirely for their own survival. What Lou teaches in those final days about courage, love, and what matters most when everything else is stripped away, becomes the most powerful education he ever provides. Though the students who witness it, Eleanor, family members, close friends, and medical staff, aren't prepared for the profound impact of learning from someone who faces death as another opportunity to serve and inspire others, rather than seeking comfort and sympathy for himself. Lou and Eleanor's home, Riverdale, Bronx, June 1st, 1941. Lou Gehrig sits propped up in his favorite chair, surrounded by the people he loves most, knowing that his time is measured in days rather than weeks, and choosing to use his remaining strength not for self-pity or regret, but for teaching one last lesson about how to live fully, even when death is approaching. Lou's voice is weak, his movements limited by the progression of ALS, but his mind remains sharp, and his commitment to helping others learn and grow continues until his final breath. The lesson Lou teaches doesn't follow traditional educational methods because he understands that the most important knowledge can't be transmitted through lectures or books, but must be demonstrated through lived example when circumstances test everything you believe about courage, love, and human dignity in ways that reveal whether your values are genuine or just comfortable theories that collapse under real pressure. Lou shows rather than tells, using his final days to model the kind of strength that comes not from physical power or the absence of fear, but from choosing love over bitterness, gratitude over complaint, and service over self-focus, even when suffering would justify complete self-absorption and withdrawal from others' needs and concerns. Lou's classroom is his living room, transformed into a space where friends, family, and visitors come expecting to offer comfort, but instead receive education about grace under ultimate pressure that changes their understanding of what strength really means. Lou greets each visitor with genuine interest in their lives, asking about their challenges and offering encouragement and advice despite his own deteriorating condition, demonstrating that true strength means continuing to care for others even when your own circumstances would warrant receiving care rather than giving it. When most people would focus entirely on their own comfort and needs during their final days. Eleanor becomes Lou's most dedicated student, watching her husband navigate the final stages of terminal illness with curiosity about what she can learn from his approach rather than simply grief about losing him. Understanding that his death can become a source of wisdom if she remains open to the lessons he's demonstrating. Lou teaches Eleanor that love isn't just emotion but action, showing her how to care for someone who is dying while maintaining hope, dignity, and even moments of joy that seemed impossible when the diagnosis first arrived 2 years earlier, proving that love can transcend circumstances when approached with the right understanding and commitment. Lou's teaching method involves turning everyday interactions into opportunities for profound lessons about living and dying, that most people never receive because they avoid confronting mortality until it's thrust upon them. When visitors struggle with what to say to someone who is dying, Lou demonstrates how to make others comfortable by focusing conversation on their interests and concerns rather than his illness, showing that even terminal patients can serve as hosts who make guests feel welcome and valued rather than burdened by witnessing suffering, transforming potentially awkward encounters into meaningful exchanges that benefit everyone involved. Lou teaches about gratitude by expressing genuine appreciation for his life, career, and relationships, even as ALS takes away his physical abilities one by one in a progression that most people would find devastating and demoralizing. Instead of focusing on what he's losing, Lou demonstrates how to celebrate what he's had, sharing memories and insights with visitors in ways that help them appreciate their own blessings rather than taking their health and opportunities for granted. turning his terminal illness into a reminder for others about the precious nature of ordinary experiences they might otherwise overlook or dismiss as routine. The lesson about courage that Lu teaches doesn't involve denying fear or pretending that death is easy to face, but showing how to acknowledge difficulty while choosing responses that reflect values rather than emotions, demonstrating that authentic courage includes admitting vulnerability while refusing to be controlled by it. Lu admits to Eleanor and close friends that he's sometimes afraid and sad about leaving them, but he demonstrates how to feel these emotions without being controlled by them, how to face uncertainty with dignity rather than despair, showing that strength comes not from the absence of difficult feelings, but from continuing to act with love and purpose despite those feelings. Lu's teaching about legacy focuses not on preserving his reputation or ensuring he's remembered in specific ways, but on encouraging others to live more fully because they witnessed his example of grace under pressure and learned that ordinary people can face extraordinary challenges with extraordinary dignity. Lu tells visitors that the best way to honor his memory is to treat their own challenges with the same courage and love for others that he's trying to demonstrate, turning his death into a catalyst for better living rather than just a cause for mourning, transforming personal tragedy into communal inspiration that extends far beyond his individual experience. During his final weeks, Lu's lessons become increasingly profound as he demonstrates how to let go of control gracefully while maintaining dignity and connection to the people who matter most, showing that surrender doesn't mean defeat but can represent the ultimate act of trust in something larger than individual will. Lu teaches Eleanor how to grieve while still living fully, showing her that loving someone who is dying means accepting their death while continuing to engage with life rather than beginning to die emotionally before the physical death occurs, demonstrating that the deepest form of love sometimes requires letting go rather than holding on desperately to what cannot be preserved. Lu's most powerful teaching involves showing how to maintain hope without denial, acknowledging the reality of terminal illness while finding reasons for gratitude and joy that exist independently of health and longevity, proving that meaning doesn't depend on duration but on the quality of connection and service that fills whatever time we're given. Lu demonstrates that hope isn't about expecting miraculous recovery, but about trusting that love, kindness, and the positive impact you've had on others will continue beyond your individual existence, creating ripple effects that extend your influence far beyond the boundaries of your personal lifespan. The lesson Lu teaches about family relationships involves showing Eleanor relatives and friends how to support each other through crisis without losing their individual identities or sacrificing their own needs, completely in ways that would ultimately make them less able to provide effective support. Lu demonstrates that caring for someone who is dying requires balance between devotion and self-care, showing how to be fully present for someone's final journey while maintaining the strength needed to continue living after they're gone, proving that sustainable love requires wisdom about limits and boundaries rather than just unlimited sacrifice. Lu's teaching about medical professionals and caregivers transforms his interactions with doctors, nurses, and home health workers into opportunities to demonstrate dignity and appreciation that makes their difficult work more meaningful, and reminds them why they chose careers dedicated to helping others. Lu shows how patients can serve their caregivers by maintaining courage and gratitude that reminds medical staff why their profession matters, turning the doctor-patient relationship into mutual support rather than just one-directional care, creating connections that enrich the lives of both those who give care and those who receive it. During his final week, Lu's ability to speak becomes severely limited, but his teaching continues through facial expressions, hand gestures, and the peaceful presence that demonstrates acceptance without resignation, showing that communication transcends words when the relationship is deep enough. Lu shows that dying can be as meaningful as living when approached with the same values that guided a person's healthy years, that death can serve others by modeling grace under ultimate pressure that helps them understand what courage really means when everything else is taken away, except character, and the choice of how to respond to circumstances beyond our control. Eleanor witnesses Lu's final lesson about communication when words become difficult. He demonstrates how to express love, gratitude, and encouragement through touch, eye contact, and presence that transcends verbal language. Lou teaches that the most important communications don't require speech, but rely on authentic connection between people who care about each other deeply enough to understand meaning beyond words. Lou's last words, spoken with enormous effort during his final conscious moments, become the culmination of his teaching about what matters most when everything else is stripped away and only the essential remains. Looking at Eleanor with eyes that contain 2 years of facing terminal illness with courage and grace, Lou whispers the words that summarize everything he's learned and wants to pass on to others about the true source of fortune in human life. I have been the luckiest man on the face of the earth. And that luck wasn't about baseball, it was about being loved and being able to love in return. Eleanor realizes that Lou's final words reframe his famous farewell speech from Yankee Stadium, shifting the focus from athletic achievement to human connection as the source of true fortune in life and revealing that his understanding of luck has deepened through facing mortality. Lou's deathbed revision of his most famous statement teaches that real luck isn't about career success, recognition, physical health, or even longevity, but about the relationships that give life meaning and the opportunity to contribute positively to other people's experiences, to love and be loved in ways that transcend individual achievement and create lasting impact on others' lives. Lou's final teaching moment demonstrates that death doesn't have to defeat the human spirit, but can become an opportunity for the ultimate expression of everything a person has learned about courage, love, and service to others. Lou dies on June 2, 1941, having transformed his final months into a masterclass in graceful dying that continues educating everyone who learns about his example decades later. Eleanor preserves Lou's final lessons by sharing his approach to terminal illness with others facing similar challenges. Understanding that Lou's greatest gift wasn't his baseball career, but his demonstration of how to face life's most difficult moments with dignity, love, and continued concern for others. Lou's deathbed becomes a classroom whose teachings continue influencing people long after the teacher is gone. The doctors and nurses who cared for Lou during his final months describe his death as unlike anything they'd witnessed in their medical careers. Not because of any unusual medical circumstances, but because of the peaceful strength and continued generosity of spirit that Lou maintained until his last breath. Lou's example teaches medical professionals that death can be faced with grace when patients approach their final days with the same courage and love that characterized their healthy years. Lou's final lesson about dying well influences Eleanor's approach to her own eventual death decades later, when she faces her final illness with the same grace and concern for others that she learned from watching Lou transform his deathbed into a classroom. Eleanor realizes that Lou's greatest teaching was showing that love is stronger than death because the lessons we teach others through our example continue long after our individual existence ends. Lou Gehrig's role as the last teacher demonstrates that education never stops for those committed to helping others learn and grow. That even terminal illness can become an opportunity to model courage, grace, and love under ultimate pressure in ways that provide the most profound lessons about what it means to be fully human when everything non-essential is stripped away. Lou's final classroom teaches the most important lesson of all, that how we face our greatest challenges reveals who we really are, and provides the most powerful education we can offer to others about what it means to be fully human, showing that teaching and learning continue until our final breath when we approach both with the right spirit of service and love. Who in your life has taught you important lessons about courage and love through their example rather than their words, showing you how to face difficulty with grace and dignity? What would you want to teach others if you knew you had only days left to live? And how would you want to be remembered not for your achievements, but for your character? Lou Gehrig's final lesson reminds us that our greatest teaching opportunities often come not when we feel strong and prepared, but when we face challenges that test everything we believe about dignity, love, and what makes life meaningful, and that the most important education we can provide others often happens through how we handle our most difficult moments rather than our easiest ones.